We all say we want to be happy. It feels like the simplest thing in the world, right? But what if I told you that simple wish is actually super political? That's what we're digging into today, the hidden politics of happiness.
Think about this phrase, I just want you to be happy. We've all heard it, right? Maybe from a parent, a friend, heck, maybe you've even said it. And on the surface, it sounds so pure, so loving. But does it always feel that way? Why is it that sometimes that simple sentence lands with this incredible weight, this pressure? Why can it feel less like a wish and more like, well, like a command?
Okay, and this quote, it just lays that tension right out in the open. A father is talking to his daughter and he says, yeah, I want you to be happy, but he immediately follows it up with this whole roadmap for how she should be happy. Like your mother is, with a husband and children. So it's not just any happiness, it's a very specific brand of happiness. Suddenly that loving phrase, I just want you to be happy, has some serious terms and conditions attached.
So what is going on here? How do we even begin to unpack this pressure? Well, to do that, we need to turn to the incredible work of a scholar named Ahmed. She's a thinker who really dives into the cultural politics of our feelings, and she gives us this amazing framework to understand it all. And it all really starts with her essay, Happy Objects. Now, in this piece, Ahmed puts forward this kind of radical idea. She says, what if happiness isn't just this private internal feeling we have? What if, instead, it's more like a promise that directs us, that points us towards certain things out there in the world? And these things, she calls them happy objects.
Okay, so let's break that down. What's a happy object? Well, it can be pretty much anything. A specific career, a person, a certain lifestyle, even big institutions like marriage or the nuclear family. Society basically puts a big, shiny flag on these things and says, hey, over here, this is where happiness is. They become these social goods, these goals that we're all sort of encouraged to chase after.
Right, but how does that even happen? How do these objects get so happy? Well, Ahmed has a term for this mechanism too. She calls it sticky affect. The idea is that our feelings aren't just floating around inside of us. They get out there and they stick to things. Think of it like emotional Velcro. That warm, fuzzy feeling of happiness gets stuck to the idea of, say, a wedding ring or a house with a white picket fence. And over time, the two become almost inseparable in our minds.
So here's the crucial part. When you put happy objects and sticky affect together, you start to see something really profound. Happiness isn't just this personal, private thing anymore. It becomes this powerful social direction. It's a force that's constantly telling us where to go, what to want, and really, how to live our lives. It's a cultural GPS, always pointing us in one specific direction. And this whole process builds up to what Ahmed calls the promise of happiness. It's like a four-step program. First, our society singles out certain things, the good career, the marriage, the 2.5 kids. Step 2, it infuses those things with the promise of a good life. Step 3, they basically become happiness pointers, little signs on the road of life. And finally, step 4, we're all encouraged, and let's be real, often pressured, to aim our lives right at them.
And as Ahmed herself says, it's that promise that's so important. The promise is what sends happiness out into the world. It's what allows it to be out and about. So happiness stops being just a potential feeling you might have, and it becomes this active, circulating force, completely tied to these specific life goals that our culture has decided are worthwhile.
Which leads to the million-dollar question, doesn't it? What happens when those happy objects just don't make you happy? What happens when you follow the map society gave you, you get to the big X on the ground, and there's no treasure? When the things that are supposed to bring you joy just leave you feeling empty? Well, this is where things get really political.
Because when that happens, this split is created. On one side, you have the people who are aligned. They get genuine joy from those socially approved happy objects. They're facing the right way, according to the group. But on the other side, you have the alienated, the people who don't feel pleasure from those same objects. And by not feeling the right way, you suddenly become out of line with everyone else. You're a stranger in your own community.
Affect alien. That's Ahmed's term for it. And it's so powerful, right? Affect aliens are the folks who, just by existing and feeling what they feel, disrupt the whole social script about what happiness is supposed to be. And she gives some really potent examples: feminist killjoys, unhappy queers, and melancholic migrants. These are people whose feelings don't fit the mold, and because of that, their emotions are often seen as a threat to the social order.
Now, out of all these affect aliens, there's one figure that Ahmed really drills down on, one that's probably the most recognizable and definitely the most potent.
It's time to talk about the feminist killjoy.
I want you to imagine this scene, because we've all been there. You're at the dinner table with family or friends, the mood is light, everyone's supposed to be having a good time, and then someone says something sexist, racist, homophobic, just off. And you feel that pit in your stomach. You have a choice. Stay quiet or speak up. And if you speak up, if you're the one who says, hey, that's not cool, what happens? Suddenly, you're the one ruining the mood. You are the problem. You're blamed for causing the argument, not the person who made the offensive comment in the first place.
But, and this is so important, this is the crucial reframing Ahmed offers. The killjoy doesn't create the bad feeling. The bad feeling was already there. They just refuse to play along and pretend it isn't. They're the ones who point to the unhappiness that was already simmering right under the surface, hidden by all that pressure to just be nice and get along. They're not killing the joy, they're exposing the cracks in a fragile, happy facade.
Okay, so what's the big takeaway here? Let's wrap this all up. First, happiness isn't just personal. It's social, it's political. Second, society gives us this map with happy objects on it. Third, if you don't follow that map, you can become an affect alien. And that means, fourth, that killing joy can actually be a powerful act of political resistance. And finally, it all reminds us that our feelings, our private emotions, are always part of a much bigger conversation.
So why does any of this matter to you right now? Well, because understanding this stuff is just incredibly empowering. It lets you look at your own feelings, both the good and the bad, in a totally new light. If you've ever felt out of place or unhappy when you were supposed to be happy, maybe it's not because there's something wrong with you. Maybe it's because you're resisting a social script that just wasn't written for you. It gives you a whole new language to make sense of your own life. And so I want to leave you with this to think about. Take a look at your own life. What are the happy objects that society has pointed you toward? Is it a certain career path, a specific type of relationship, a particular lifestyle? And here's the kicker. When you chase after them, who really benefits from that? It's a tough question, but it's one that's absolutely worth asking.